Welcome along for the very last Cardiff City phone-in of the season. We've got quite an interesting panel tonight. Paul Mohammed is back with us. Also, Steve Wiggy Wiggins, who, in his words, come off the bench. But has he come off the bench to do battle with our secret mystery guest just behind me? Vince Salm's is with us. He's just trying to get his camera on at the moment, but Vince is with us, which is always good. And the guy behind us is Jeff Dela Cruz, who's an very old friend of mine. And he's over from Ireland. He's an Irish correspondent, and he's going to be bringing us goal flashes from the Sligo St. Pat's match with Ollie Denning playing during the game as well. But he recently had a bit of a run-in with Steve Wiggy Wiggins about the manager, which we'll come back to in a bit. I'll tell you what, Vince. I'll go to you first because I know you can hear us okay. Amazing, really, conceding 5 goals against Rotherham. With their record, and they I think minus 57 or something before the game, and obviously four goals conceded in the game before, so the goals were flying in.
Yeah.
If you compare the two games, was it a fair representation? Were we really battered, or was it a case of everything they hit seemed to hit the back of the net?
Well, it was one of them games where both teams had spells where they were on top, which is unusual for Cardiff because I haven't seen us in many games where we've had any spells with lots of with us putting a team under pressure for any amount of time. But we did it at Rotherham in a couple of spells of 10, 15 minutes and scored or missed our usual sitters as well, as we've done all season. But no, look, I think the big difference is there. We had probably 4 first teamers in there. If you have a look what team we've been picking all season, there's probably 4 of them in that side that were mainstay, and the rest wasn't. And we were getting done down the flanks, both sides, because we've got 2 full backs and played a lot. And their strikers, in fairness, the first 2 goals show that Rotherham were probably a little bit more up for it than us, because if both centre halves had been on their game, I'm sure they would have got to that ball first on their first 2 goals. So it's 5-2. It looks a hammering. I wouldn't say it was a hammering, but what you got to look at, we didn't defend very well. We had 2 fullbacks who've hardly played all season in them positions anyway, and we had the midfield, which 1 or 2 of them I think were put in the shop window. Maybe, I don't know. But it's certainly, you've got to put it in perspective. With that being, if we needed points there, would we have put our same side out, given what was on the bench and what teams we put out the rest of the season? We had a lot of kind of players who've only just started playing for us the last couple of games once we were safe. So that's what I would say about that. But 5-2, it could be 5-5, Steve. Could have been 5-5, and probably should have been.
Yeah,
to be
and
honest.
then 2 of the goals, I know it sounds like making excuses, but 2 of the goals, I can't see in a million years how that was a pen, for one thing. And then the Hugill goal, I mean, the second Hugill goal was Nat Phillips' biggest mistake of the entire season, wasn't it? All of a sudden, gave it to him,
Yeah, he did, and he's got that in his locker. Unfortunately, he's done it once or twice, but he's brilliant as well with it. But and if you look at the penalty, that was done with Romeo stepping over the ball and missing the ball. And he was under no pressure, and he couldn't control the ball, and it resulted in us having to do a last bit of ditch defending, and then the corner, and then they got the penalty from that. So the build-up of that was we should have been on the attack. They shouldn't have even been in our half. And it was one of them games where it looked a bit of a scratch team on paper. Let's give a couple a run out, put 1 or 2 in the shop window. And it was exciting, but we were the wrong side of it, wrong side of the result.
I mean, that's I don't know whether Jeff, we want to come in on that, because I know we watched the game on the weekend, and your take on it was that we played some youngsters, we played a bit more attacking, and you can't have it both ways. Is that what you want to say?
It's just I wouldn't read too much into that game. We could have won that 5-2. If we'd have taken some chances. I mean, there's no penalty for me. Nat Phillips, he's never made a mistake like that all season. That's gone in. They scored a worldie, and the chances we had, we just, again, as usual, didn't take them. But we could have quite easily won that 5-2. We could have hammered them. I was saying at half when it was 2-2, I said, we're going to go on and win this 4-2 at least.
You made me put a fiver on it.
Yeah. But, I just think it was one of those crazy things. People are going mad about it. They're not trying. I think the ones who want to go to Dubai were already there, I didn't agree with Bowler playing. I didn't think there was any need to put him in, but Leeds must, I would have rather seen a youngster. It was a strange one. We wanted to see the youngsters. We wanted to give them a chance, and it a little bit blew up in their faces. And I would say, I wouldn't read too much into that game. Typical end of season.
Vince, just to come back to you briefly, you were there on the weekend. Were you at Rotherham? Yeah,
I was. Yeah, I was there. I wasn't in fancy dress.
What was your take on the City reaction to us? Were they cheering on the team? Were they kind of supportive of the youngsters? What was the general feel?
No, it was a party atmosphere, to be honest. I don't think anyone who was up there really there was a couple of us older ones who were whinging a little bit, but the majority of the fans were just party time, and that was probably the best way to be. I haven't seen too many exciting games with Cardiff this year, and I was one of them. So on reflection, we were the wrong side of a result, but we attacked the whole game, which is very unusual for us. We put them under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And as I said, we didn't have our strongest team out. And for once, we didn't play too defensively because we couldn't, to be honest. We didn't have the personnel on there to play too defensively. So we have to go all out attack. And we looked all right in there half of the pitch. We just needed somebody to put away these chances we keep getting. But it was difficult. It was difficult result to take because they were bottom of the table, and there was a lot of goals conceded, 9 in 2 games. Yeah. But from my point of view, I think the crowd stuck with them, and that's why you had all that fist pumping at the end because we just supported the team. Didn't really. We were having a bit of banter with the home fans. I think a lot of our crowd even cheered their 4th and 5th goals when they went in. They were a lot of our supporters. They were cheering with them. So
fair enough. Okay.
It was one of them. It was from the fans' point of view. It was one of them ones that nobody really was too concerned. They knew it was a scratch team and a decent. It was a decent, entertaining game.
So there's a few comments coming in. I'll just put this one up on the screen, and I'll go to Paul first, and I'll go to Wiggy because Wiggy's going to kind of come in from a slightly left of centre, I think. Let's go to Reese. There's a bit of a clear out needed this summer. Reno, Adams, Bagan, Ojo, Sawyers, Wintle maybe. Tete can go, not good enough. Hope to never see Bowler again. Not sold on the keeper, and rate Alnick higher. Paul, any thoughts on that? I mean, there's 9 goals in 2 games. I'm not saying they were all the keeper's fault, for example, but there's a lot of goals, isn't it?
Yeah, I think half of them were already in Dubai. Like I said earlier. Look, the last 2 games we were safe by then. We had that performance before that against Southampton. And the last 2 games I was at the Middlesbrough game. They were miles better than us. And Saturday, they just got at us. I thought their front 2 bullied us a bit. They got at us. They were bright. They scored at the right times, and they just for half time. They scored quickly after we equalised, and they were more up for it than we were. And I think he probably should have played 1 or 2 more. Maybe that Conte at right back if he's the future.
He looks good, doesn't
he? What's his name? Romeo.
Yeah.
He could have got legs on in there earlier. The Colwells maybe, but look, it's it's end of season. They were relegated. They were up for it more, and they beat us quite easily. Was that a roundabout way of coming into the summer?
Well, we can go into the summer,
That was what the question was about. A lot of getting rid of, or
in terms of I mean, there was a list there of players. Bagan, don't think should be on the list myself. What's he done wrong so far? But there you go.
Well, he's coming back, isn't he? Plus Isaac Davis. So
and Eli King.
Yeah, so there are 2 or 3 youngsters who will probably be given a chance, I would have thought, in pre-season at least. Because let's be honest, we're not going to be going out spending large amounts of money, so we have to try and develop young players. That's just the only way to do it. The owner isn't going to invest vast sums of money in transfer fees. So it's developed from within, which in fairness, there are 1 or 2 now bright shoots coming through, aren't there? So there's you can't rely on that in the Championship too much, of course, because it's brutal and it's a brutal league and it can find you out. But I think again, with reasonable recruitment in the summer, I think the loan system will be huge. Pick up gems like Amari Hutchinson, Sario Mentos. They are out there, these players who can come into the Championship, and we've had 1 or 2 before. So I think the loan system's going to be huge again, because that is not a huge financial risk. I don't think there are too many players out of contract this summer. Sawyer, certainly, he will be released, won't he? Almost certainly, I would have thought. Adams probably will go to Derby.
Might be a fee there. Well, hopefully a fee.
They'll cash in on anything that moves if they can, and every single player is up for sale. I don't care who it is, even the young Welsh players. They'll try and cash in on whatever they can, and try and utilise the loan system and see what happens. But obviously, it comes down to, and we're going to talk about it, I'm sure, budgets and who the manager is.
Yeah. I mean, the comment from Suze Coleman is fair as well. The first couple of goals looked like Romeo was getting kind of done a bit down the right, but like Vince says, he hasn't played a lot in his defense. There's a comment from Dave Sugarman,
and he had Bowler in front of him.
Yeah, he's not the best in defensive way, is he? That's right.
No.
I'm well. The Bowler thing is, for me, he's just on the wrong wing. You just can't use his right foot. It just seems mad to me. But there we are. I'll put Dave Sugarman's comment on the screen because Jeff will find this entertaining because he's had run-ins with him over the years as well. And it'll lead me into Steve Wiggins. So Dave Sugarman says, Steve, despite the manager's, this is quoting Dave Sugarman, despite the manager's boring, sterile defensive tactics, the team ended up conceding 12 more goals than it did last season. So if Errol Bullett's the answer, it's a pretty stupid question. And no one, as you have opinions on Errol Bullett, and there'll be other opinions in the room. What's your thoughts on that, Steve?
Hats off to you, Dave Sugarman. He's spot on, absolutely spot on. I failed to see what anyone. Listen, Mr. Bullett's got us safe, and hats off to him for getting us safe. But look at the quality of football, gentlemen. Come on, it's been absolutely dire since October. And even the games we've managed to scrape wins. If you take out the Sunderland game away, I think it was, Vince, and a couple of games like that where we scraped. Okay, we got a win against Ipswich at home. We've scraped wins. You take those, we would have been knocking on. I know it's all ifs and buts, but we would have been seriously knocking on relegation doors. I'm not a fan of Bullet. I don't like this inverted winger business, Steve. We chat about it week in, week out on this show. I mean, how many more games is he going to play a left-footed player on the right wing? Why just don't you try something different? That's my big beef with him. And Saturday, yes, we started with a couple of kids, but come on, get Joel Colwell in, get Ruben Colwell in from the start. Because like Paul just said there, next year we're going to have to rely on those kids quite heavily, I would have said, if they're still with us. And Conte, who looks very assured, why not? Why didn't we start with him on Saturday? Give them all a game. I don't think he fancies the kids in the slightest, Bullet. Looking at it on the face of it, and I don't know. He's not for me. Never has been. I don't like his. And again on Saturday, Steve, we started with two defensive midfield players, and look, they put 5 on us. We're too easy to suss out. The opposing managers must be licking their lips every single game. All they did on Saturday, they put 3 up, pressed us high, and we were stuffed. And that's what they got there.
Jordan Hugo was on a hat trick, so I mean that's not something that happens too often.
He hadn't scored before that was October, his last goal.
Yeah.
But once they said that before the game, I thought, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
They haven't scored for 10 games
today.
Sorry.
Jeff, I don't know whether you want to respond to Steve, because it's Jeff, you've turned you've changed your opinion.
Look, all season, me and Steve, we were talking about, we on various Facebook pages until I got banned from one. I was against him. Then I thought, he had a little run, and I thought maybe I'm wrong. Then I went against him. I used to tell Steve about this, but it was towards the end. I was thinking, look, they've left it too late to get anyone in. Really, just I would have thought they would have changed him fairly rapidly after Christmas if they could have. And I thought you may as well let him stay there. See what he can do the first part. Give him the problem is, I don't think he's going to accept a contract, a rolling contract or anything like this. My idea was you bring in on Ramsey. Ramsey's getting his coaching badges. Make Ramsey director of football, and there's your backup, instant backup once Bullet gets the bullet. But he has a chance if he can get what he wants and say, then he could start us off well and fair play. You'd stay with him. That's the reason I decided that maybe they need to give him a contract. But it's got to be a contract, which is so difficult to do now. We'd have to move him on, and I don't think Tan wants to get his fingers burnt on things like that. But that would be my ideal: is Aaron Ramsey as director of football. I can't see him playing much at all next season. I think personally, I think he's finished. But you don't want to lose him out of the club,
Jeff, they're great points, and I can see Jonathan's comment on there, and I'm of the same opinion as well. I mean, people keep banging on that we haven't had a decent squad. We got good players on paper if they're played in their correct positions. If Bowler's played on his natural left side and gets behind the defences, we're going to create a lot more than what we have been doing with him playing on the right-hand side. Same with Carlin Grant. Carlin Grant should be playing centre forward. End of. But he's been tried there a couple of games. 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, and then he gets banged back out on the left wing again. We got players playing in wrong positions, square pegs, round holes, in my opinion. If you sat down and listed the Ipswich players, 8 of those that were in that side on Saturday played in their League One promotion team, and you sat down and wrote our players up against it, we had a half-decent squad there this year, just not played in the right positions and played with the right patterns of play and the right tactics, in my opinion.
Vince, do you want to respond to that? What's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts is he's a very defensive manager, and we were warned about this by Turkish fans, believe it or not, when we were over there with Wales last season in June, and he's proven to be that. One thing I would say about it, that the manager, he has steadied the ship from where we were. And if there's nobody better available that we can afford, we're better off sticking with him, because with a lot of the loan players going and us having another Steve Morrison type manager in. Because my biggest concern is there's nobody in our club, in my opinion, that can choose the right manager. And the proof is in the pudding. The last few years we just haven't had the right managers. And if you have a look at managers, the last manager, I can't even remember the last manager that left our club for another club. They've all been sacked and nobody's really wanted them. Whereas if you look at our rivals down the road, you look at their managers, Brendan Rodgers, Liverpool, Potter, he went to Chelsea. We haven't had any. So I'm not sure we got the personnel to choose the right manager anyway. And if we can't afford them, we know there's nobody better, we're better off sticking with what we got. And this chopping and changing of managers is not doing us any good. I take all your points on board. He's not an exciting manager. He's a defensive manager, but he's done okay. He did inherit only a half tidy squad in the summer with some decent players, but he didn't add. We had a bit of a window in January where a lot of his targets we couldn't even afford, or they didn't bother coming to the club. So he was let down a bit by our off the field stuff. In the summer, we did all right with our recruitment. I thought we'd done really well. And we've had a lot of the season with our star players injured, Riles, Ramsey and O'Dowda. And and they failed to get him a striker. They have failed to buy him a striker. So you add all that into the pot, all the chances we created. We had McGuinness out for a while as well. So we had to get we've had to rebuild a lot of different areas. I'm quite happy with mid-table, and the footballers have to be boring at times for us to win games. Otherwise, we wouldn't have won games. If we went toe to toe with some of the other teams, like we did, like against Norwich, you end up on a hiding. Okay, Leeds hiding. Sometimes you've got to keep it tight, and that's just where we are. And I accept. I want to see exciting football, but if there's nobody better, or there's nobody better out there that we can afford, you're better off sticking with what we got, because you know you'll have another season in the Championship after.
So I'm going to bring Paul in a second, but I don't know whether you know, Vince, because I don't know. Do you know how many managers are we currently are still sort of paying? You know, we're still in the aftermath of paying. I wonder, is one or two? I would guess.
Well, that's his worry, isn't it? Yeah, that's his worry, because Mick McCarthy had a good 6 months, gave him a 3-year deal, and we got rid of him a couple of months later. So he's on a 3-year. Steve Morrison, they all were. They were all on long deals, not long deals, but fairly a year or 2 years. So if we haven't paid the money up front, which we probably couldn't because of financial fair play, they're still on the wage bill every month. So anyone from McCarthy on may be still on the wage bill. That's what I would say.
Yeah. So I mean, and again, that is part of the problem as well, isn't it? If Errol Bullock, quite rightly, let's face it, he doesn't live in the country. Yeah, his family aren't in the country. If he wants to come, he's been alluding to wanting something like a 3-year deal. I don't think that's very likely. The problem with that is, going back, Paul, to what Vince just said, and I also want to come to you on the comment on the screen from Reese, is how can we countenance giving Errol Bullock, or anyone really, a 3-year deal based on the fact we're still probably playing ex-managers,
I don't know on the ex-manager one, because if you go into another job, you can't be on the payroll of another club. So Morrison can't be. Harris has already got another job. So don't think we've seen Mick McCarthy since, have we? But
no, we may never do.
So that's the problem. Oh, did he? To try and save them, the usual go in for a few games, and maybe. Anyway, yeah.
What about the comment from Reese there, Paul, as well, then, on that, about if we'd made the playoffs, we'd put, like with Warnock, we didn't play great football under Neil Warnock, but we got the wins,
Yeah.
It kind of brings us back to the weekend, really, because we sort of
a results business.
Football,
yeah,
we?
Exactly.
Yeah.
As that's saying, well, it is, isn't it? Of course it is. And the silly thing is, you look at the table, and we're a few wins off the playoffs and a few wins off the bottom three. It's that crazy, isn't it? The Championship. But let's be honest, we're a million miles away from the playoffs. Go back to what Vince said and Steve said earlier. No striker all season again. Top goal scorers 6. Perry Ng, Carl and Grant. You can't. No recognised 9 really. Okay, we've had a few try in that position, but we haven't really got even a double figure striker, which is the bare essential. I mean, Blackburn had a bloke who scored 27, and they almost went down. That's it's. So we rely on set pieces this season too much. 40% of our goals from set pieces.
Yeah,
we rarely score, open play moves, and I think that's the problem with the side. I think the play is a bit slow from the back to the middle. There's no creativity. It's when you've got 2 holding defensive minded midfielders, and Joe Rawls is the top assist. I think top assist in him and NG. It's therein. Look, if you look at a squad and balance, you've got to look at that and say, to get the 62 points with what we had isn't a bad achievement, in fairness under Bullock in his first season outside of Turkey. It's not easy to come into the Championship. It's not an easy division from where we were. So So are we on to whether we keep him or not? Because that's been mentioned.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of all,
yeah.
A lot of it comes back to that, yeah.
I said it a couple of months ago, exactly when I think the last time I was on here. Even then, I said he's worth another year, and that was in March. I think it was, and I still think that. But the problem is, he probably wants 2 or 3 years, and I would guess the club have probably offered him the same as a rolling contract again. I mean, I don't know, but if you read between the lines in what he's been saying the last couple of weeks in his press conferences about he doesn't want to be a guest, he'd rather be a resident. Or
so you read that as he's been offered something like that, yeah, Paul?
I do. I think that there's a rolling, probably another year's rolling on the table. I would suggest that has been there for a few weeks, but he hasn't accepted it because he's pushing for, as you would from his side with security wise, and he would say that I've been here a year and I've justified my, I've justified my my brief. We although I'm sure the owner would have probably wanted more than mid-table, but from where we've come from or where we were the last 2 seasons, and with the squad we got and the wage bill being reduced and everything else, you've got to say that's probably pretty much where we expected to end up. So I would give him. I don't think I'd give him 3 years, and I maybe a year with an option of another year.
Yeah.
But I think that's where the negotiations are stalling, and probably over budget too. I would guess that budget is a big one also, because
budget for him and budget to bring players in. Yeah.
I think for him, he's looking at it and thinking, I need a little bit of a budget to go and have a go. Maybe tap into his contacts in Greece, Turkey, Germany, etc. So I think that's where we are, just reading between the lines. And just one more thing, I think he's been talking up 1 or 2 of our young players, particularly Colwell. Now, to me, that suggests, my conspiracy theorists, his budget is, we'll sell 1 or 2 of the promising, and then you'll have a budget. And he's talked up Colwell, he's talked up Wintle, he's talked up a few of the. We haven't got too many assets, have we? You come and pick off for decent money. So that, again, reading between the lines, that's how I read that.
Okay. So Jeff's going to come in with a couple of. We got the update from Sligo versus St. Pat's, by the way, because Ali Denham's playing. He's been watching them all season for us. It's 1-0. He's playing all right. He's also at some point going to, I think, quickly reveal his starting 11 in a different formation based on the players that we have at the club, just in his opinion, which is a good talking point. But there's a comment coming here from, I'll go to you, Steve, with this, from Steve Thomas. He says, Bullet has steadied the ship and can push on next season. Siopis and Gutas came because of him and will likely go if Errol does. Bearing in mind, I think I'm right, Manolis actually chose to leave the last cup, didn't he? Paid to get himself off the contract. If you want to be entertained, Wiggy, go and watch Arsenal. Oh no, hang on. They have Saka on the right with the left foot. I think he's having a pop there, Steve.
Yeah, but Saka's a brilliant player. I mean, okay, Saka plays on the right side, but look at the goals he scored for Arsenal. Look at the chances he creates. And if you look at Bowler hasn't created anything yet. When he's with Blackpool, I remember him playing for Blackpool against us. I've mentioned before, he looked $1 million. And when we signed him on loan, I thought, great, but he needs to be playing on the left-hand side. I mean, my argument against Bowler against Saka, I mean, Bowler's played on the right-hand side all season. And I scored a worldie goal against Watford. And that's about it, really. So, I mean, if it's not working out, then why doesn't he try him on the left-hand side? But he never has, Steve, ever. You know, and I mean, we don't create enough. We're like Paul said, we're desperate to have someone like a Colwell in the side all the time at 10, and Colwell's been in and out of that position, 20 minutes here, 10 minutes there. He won us the game against Ipswich by more luck than judgment. Start him at 10, keep him at 10. Give him a run at 10, but he doesn't fancy him at 10. And we haven't created enough chances. Arsenal create millions of chances. So you've got to look for the reasons why we're not creating chances. I go back and I always mention the day, Steve, when we have Willie Anderson, Barry Jones, if you want to go back further, John Farrington, if you want to a little bit the other way, all those people, even Birdie flying down the wing, my dad's favourite player. You know, but they all got behind defences, banged the ball in the box. Toshak and Clark scored the goals, and that's what we haven't been doing. We're not getting to the byline. So, like someone's just mentioned on the comments, Steve, if you've got a no disrespect to Steve Evans, who's just taken over at Rotherham, he sussed us out straight away, playing those 3 players up top, pushed us back. And they reap the dividends like other sides have done all season, because we're too slow in our play. And like Vince said, we were warned that Mr. Bullett's had been on the defensive side. Yes, he is on the defensive side, but he needs to change. He's a bit stubborn. That's what I don't like about him. If things are not working, then why persist in playing inverted wingers? Why not try something different? Why?
Well, Vince, so you've certainly seen City way more than I have this season. So you must have been, frustrated on times by that stubbornness to stick with that system, even when we have players out like Ollie Tanner. I think who I think has done quite well actually. I said the other week at left back, he's come in playing out of position, but even then he's going to play Kean. He's going to play him on the left, so we can keep that thing. He is very stubborn. Do you find that frustrating? Do you wish he would wish you just change it up a bit?
Sometimes if you keep changing stuff, you still end up losing the game. I think that, like a lot of modern managers, and I don't know why they all do it, I think what it is, we haven't got Toshak and Clark in the middle for the start, so who's going to let the ball in? So he's hoping that the wingers will score the goal by cutting in, because that's what they do, don't they? Loads of managers do it. Now, Warnock was the same. He used to have him on opposite wings. Occasionally he'd change him. That's what he would do. Warnock would try something different. He would swap him. But I just think that if you're looking at his stubbornness, it's been a slow, deliberate build-up from the back on our own 18-yard box. And a lot of teams who press high, like your Southamptons, your Hull Cities, Norwich, Swansea, you're just playing into them because they're going to put you under pressure high up the pitch. We got nobody that drives with the ball unless Ramsey's playing from midfield, so we try and pass you through there. We get outnumbered, and then when they're winning the ball back, I said this after the Swansea game, when the opposition's winning the ball back, they're winning it back in our own half. So the first thing he could do to put that is push our centre halves up the field 20 metres. So we're playing the football more in the middle and their end of the park, if he wants to play that type of football. But the thing is, the championship is a lot of teams press in this division. They run around. There's a lot of teams with energy. So you've got to do something different. You've got to speed the play up. Sometimes you've got to go long ball. Sometimes you've got to play. It's horses for courses in this. So you've got to have a little bit of flexibility. And I got to agree. His tactic is the same every single game. And all I can say, if we keep him, what he'll do, we'll get better at that plan A. That's what it'll be. We'll get better defensively, and if we can get a striker to put the ball in the net, we'll win more games.
So the other thing, Vince, sorry to interrupt you. The other thing with what you're saying about it's fashionable to have kind of inverted wingers. It's also fashionable to play from the back, and I'm not a massive fan of either. Whether it's Cardiff City or anyone else, really.
No. If you've got centre halves who can play football, it's a bit different. But sometimes you haven't. Trying to get Sean Morrison to play out from the back was very difficult, because he's good in other areas. So you've got to play with what you've got sometimes. And I know you want to develop players, but some players are so far down their career, you're not going to change their style of football, and you've got to play with the cards you're dealt. So you've got to. Your tactics got to reflect that, and they don't always reflect it. And as you say, they play players out of position. And Steve, the reason why Bowler looked so good against Cardiff at Blackpool was he drives with the ball, and Blackpool played him at a number 10. They played him a lot in the centre. Yeah. They didn't use him out wide, and he's
I agree with.
He's far more effective there, and he doesn't have to do his defensive duties because it's not his strength. And you'd identify that, you'd identify, well, Bowler, he's not the best at coming back, put him where he can do something because he's a creative player. You know, if Caldwell's tired, try Bowler in number 10.
Not a
And
bad
Carlin
point.
Grant, and Carlin Grant through the middle is a no-brainer for me because
that's what I'm saying, Vince. He's sort of set in his ways. He won't try things. I mean, we've seen Bowler play. We've seen Bowler play at 10 for Blackpool. In training, he must see those things. He's a left-footed player. So I mean, and that's another thing. We have got creative players there, but this thing that they've got to track back and they've got to defend. You're stifling our attacking creative players, and that's why we don't create enough because they're too worried about looking that way or sideways. So why haven't Bowler been? Why haven't
players who can do it, isn't there? Like O'Dowda. O'Dowda can defend, he can attack. But not everyone. Yeah, not NG can do it. He can defend, he can attack. There are certain players who can do it, but others can't. And you shouldn't. If you can't change them, you should play to their strengths because they've got ability. And the one thing championship centre halves don't like is somebody running deep at them from midfield with the ball. Because it puts them all out of position, and they just don't know how to handle that. And we haven't had anyone do that since Jordan Much, and that's what we're missing. That's what we're missing. Aaron Ramsey can do it, but he hasn't been fit enough. But
at the beginning of the season, he was doing that, and
he was.
Yeah.
You have a look at that goal that he scored against Ipswich, the second one, when he linked up with Carlin Grant, and that was all through the middle, and they just didn't know, because of the angles he's running, the space they're running into. We got nobody, absolutely nobody, apart from Aaron Ramsey, who will do that. I think Bowler could do it. Ruben Caldwell, he's a talented player, but he does it in little fits and starts. You watch him when he drives with the ball, he has them in terror, then in panic, And if he did more of that, he'd be playing Premier League now. He'd be playing Premier League now because he's got the ability. But we need players who can drive through the middle, and we haven't got it at the moment.
So I am very old school, but Callum O'Dowda, I'm glad you mentioned him. Not only do I think he's been a massive miss for this season, but when he plays, he tends to play on the left, and we look better because of it. And Ollie Tanner, I think he's been great coming forward because he has a left foot. So when he's got forward, we've been putting crosses in. I love all of that. Jeff, do you want to very quickly run through that 11 because it's quite interesting? You got it just the formation.
Well, I also say that I think the side was based around Ramsey, and that's the problem. We haven't got a Ramsey then to replace him when it all goes wrong, and that's why it's looking dire. And one other thing I wanted to do: why doesn't he switch him every now and again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he switch? Other teams do it. You switch him. Anyway, right. I was sat down earlier on, and I was trying to pick a side from what we have got, not what we've signed or who we're going to sign, or maybe some will go. I have a feeling NG will go, but and I want him to play 5-3-1-1, with a sort of diamond style midfield. I want Alnick in goals. I want Phillips, McGuinness, Gutas, NG on the right, and I will go with Tanner on the left at the moment. I think what I liked about him on Saturday, he seemed to be bossing it for a while and really enjoying it. Then I want Turnbull on the right, O'Dowda on the left, Caldwell, and this is the one that's going to shock a lot of them, Etete up front. Because I'm convinced if he stays and they don't get away, I think he'll be all right next year if they get the balls coming across to him from the byline.
Okay.
I like to see an attacker run onto the ball, not the ball going across him sometimes. I'll go with Etete.
Jeff, sorry, who did you say? I got Turnbull, Caldwell, O'Dowda, and Etete.
You got Siopis just in front of the. I'm quite deep. Not going too far forward, not going too far back. You know what I mean? Just helping out. And I got all these little arrows where they should all go, but I'm not going to go into that. And sometimes Turnbull and O'Dowda crisscrossing.
Yeah.
At each point of the diamond and stuff like this. Yeah. Just keep mixing it up. Do the criss.
Yes. Yeah. But why doesn't he do that?
And if you've got a left winger on the left and a right winger on the right, every now and again, switch them over and invert them. Because they sure as hell know how to play that game.
We got a response from Reese there.
Where's the Tete been anyway for the past few months? Is he injured or what? Because
bad hammy, yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
He was just coming all right then. I think he was just starting to do it,
so it's interesting when somebody does that, because I mean, it'll take another 5 shows to go through all that stuff, but it's a nice thing to do. But there's a really big comment which has come in here. This is one from Paul CCFC Bluebirds. He's digging up an old wound here, but Vincent Tan can get the right manager in. He just doesn't want to put anything more that he has into the club. He gave up when we got our colours back. That doesn't get people thinking about stuff. I don't know what will. I don't know. Does anybody want to respond to that at all?
There's a bit of conspiracy theory there, but
There's a bit of conspiracy theory. Yeah.
Well, no,
It was a long time ago.
We've done what you got to look at. Well, the club's losing a lot of money anyway because we're just not getting the crowds in. We're stuck in this financial fair play rut that loads of teams are stuck in now, which is what it is doing is there's no teams going into administration hardly now, is there? Most of them are being docked points. But what I say, the club does need freshening up. But from a manager, if you went out and paid money for the manager, you wouldn't have any money for the squad, because what we can't do at the moment, we haven't got a Jude Bellingham. It's like Bolton now. Bolton have been in a bottom division. Who's the player that's moved on from them? They had a big fee for, and they could get promoted again this season, and that's what we haven't got. If we had a player that we could shift on 20, 30 million, and that's what they got. That's what these teams have had. Birmingham didn't use their money wisely because of the owners, but you could then go out and get a tidy manager. They went out and got Rudy, which was probably one the right choice, as it proved to be. But you could go out and get, for a better person, a Graham Potter. I'm not saying Graham Potter, he wouldn't be my first choice, but somebody who you'd have to pay a fair bit of money for to come, and you still have a bit of money for the players, and that's the issue. I don't think supporters understand £39 million. It sounds a lot of money, but if you're losing £1 million a month, over 3 years, you've got no budget, have you? You've got a couple of £1 million you're playing with. If you're losing £1 million a month, that's 12 a year. 36, you've got £3 million in the bank. It's definitely a tough situation to be in, and we probably do need we do need a change of ownership, because at the moment, we don't really see any of them at the games, do we? Let's be honest about it. It does need freshening up, but there's no one out there for the asking price. And who would you bring in? If you bring the Americans, they run it like a business. They'll just sell all the assets, and it'll make money, but you'll be making money in League Two. That's where you'll end up. That's the problem with it. At the moment, there's other clubs out there who are probably a bit more attractive than what we are at the moment, that are up for sale. But we just got to grin and bear it. Unfortunately, even though he has got the money to spend, he's got his hands tied behind his back because of the rules we got to work under. I have got sympathy in that effect in there. You can't, unlike years ago, you can't buy your way out of trouble. Like you could years ago, even if you had the money to do it.
Well, there's 2 things there, Vince, really quickly. One is Leeds United. We managed to blow it. And the other one is Birmingham City. We've even gone as far as getting relegated, So, I think it's how you play your cards.
That's what I say. It is, the Birmingham City have got money because of Jude Bellingham. They're not under this. They've been under the shackles for years, but that has got them right out there because he's moved on. They've got some good money for him, and with a sell-on clause, and it's got them right out the mire. But they haven't done it. They haven't done it wisely, and unless you've got somebody there. My argument has been we haven't had a director of football who got the foresight. Like the guy who took over at Ipswich. Targeted McKenna, didn't he, to go there from Spurs?
What a good manager!
He spotted McKenna. He's the director of football. Yeah. But he look at Ipswich since he went to Ipswich in they've had this director of football went to Ipswich, and in 2 seasons they're in the Premier League, and that's what a good director of football does. And as you said, 8 of the players got them promoted in League One who played on the weekend.
Yeah.
So that's just that's somebody knowing their job, and we haven't had that.
Yeah,
have we?
No, I was amazed. I think Ipswich did an incredible job. I always thought they were going to blow it, but they didn't. Steve, I want to go with you with a real quick one, and I'm going to go to Paul. It's a terrible allegation from Suze Coleman. How would you know, Steve? You watch a different game. You watch Leeds, she says.
How does she know that? Don't ever believe everything Mr. Wiggins writes. You'll learn that, Sue. That's all I'm saying, kid.
Fair enough.
Right, so I started watching the City game for 10, 15 minutes. I flicked over to Leeds, Southampton, turned the commentary down, had Radio Wales on, listening to the City game, and then flicked back over.
Yeah, fair enough.
Not that I should answer to anyone, but there we go.
Yourself. It's fine.
Free and easy on the weekend. I looked for entertainment, Steve. Right. And I wasn't getting it in the first 15 minutes at Rotherham.
Paul, going back to off the back of what Vince was saying, he's making some kind of good points there about, I guess, doing things the right way and being financially aware and all the rest of it. It's kind of it's a massive decision, isn't it? However it plays out.
Yeah. What you mean now? The club's finances
in terms of the immediate future with Errol and what's going to come about.
Well, yeah, it's a very easy one to criticise because let's be honest, who else in the history of Cardiff City has put money into the club continuously and signed players, paid transfer fees? Yeah, and who's out there to take his place? That's the problem. Regardless of whether what the asking price is, these people are not queuing up. I know you talk about Birmingham; they've just got new owners, haven't they? American who've got money, and Tom Brady's involved, and they've just been given planning for stadium, regardless of their relegation. But they're a club that have been in turmoil for a long time and have financial irregularities, etc. The championship is a graveyard, isn't it, for financials for clubs, because you're chasing a lottery, you're chasing a dream. Ipswich have just won the lottery because they would not have expected anywhere near promotion in their first season. Their budget. I looked at their budget. Their budget was in the bottom 6. Yeah. So they've won the lottery. And now it's all about managing forward for them. So, but that's the problem. The championship, you're chasing that golden ticket. We've had it twice. You get your parachute payments, they run out, and the championship is full of those clubs. So it's a difficult one because you get to a stage where, if I gotta be honest, if I was Vincent Tan, I wouldn't want to keep putting money in to fund the club that it's not making enough money to turn over the losses are higher than the revenues. So every year he has to either convert to shares, put money in, take loans, do this. Why? If it's not an easy sell, is it? Our club, let's be honest, we're one of many. We think we're a big club. I think we're a little big club. I think we're a decent club, but there are many clubs like us who we don't own the stadium. The stadium's leased from the council. What are our assets? Okay, with the stadium itself we own, but not the ground. I mean, and then you got the players. That off the pitch, you got the new training academy built in Llanrumney. They're talking about a new training ground being built in the next 2 or 3 years, away from the Vale. But this all takes investment, and it's not easy. So it's easy to criticize, but it's not easy to find the right solutions. And I think we just have to. I come back to what I said earlier. We just have to meander on, unfortunately, with trying to produce from within. Relying on loans, we're not going to be spending money on transfer fees in any way. Although the only gamble you might take is for a striker, because that is it comes down to that for me in our squad. We desperately need a proven or striker or some player like Smodix who comes from nowhere that you produce from within, who can, has anybody in our squad got that potential? Maybe Atete could have, maybe a while ago. He got injured. He's young. He's got the physique. He's got there is potential there, but is he one that could break out? That's the problem we're in for me. I'm sorry, it's a long roundabout way, but it's
all right.
not an easy. It's not an easy.
No, it's
solution.
not. It's not easy. It's not at all easy. And we see clubs around us, and Vince said not so many clubs are going into the financial hole at the moment, but it's always there. And it's always a big worry. Again, look at Birmingham. When you've been Rooneyed, don't you? But anyway, it's a massive club, though, isn't it? It's incredible, really, what's happened. A comment here: we got about 10 minutes left of the last show of the season. Wales keep the faith, 1969. Don't forget, this is mostly for you, Wiggy, I think. Don't forget Peter King, Wiggy, and Nigel Rees racing down the wing to send to the ball to Clarkey for that goal. So
yeah. Good day.
None of us.
That Peter King goal when he shot from outside the ground, Steve.
Yeah, what a goal! Yeah, one of the best goals.
Just on Bullock quick. Do we know actually how much he's earning, Steve? Is he on a tidy sum, or are we paying him a lot of money, a mediocre salary, or no one seems to know? No.
I don't think salary is a problem. He would be being paid more than he would have been earning in Turkey. I think it's coming down to length of contract, personally, as I said earlier. So,
what I was going to say to you, Paul, quickly, and I go to Steve with the same question, the point that Vince made there about the director of football in Ipswich. We can't all do it in Ipswich, but I know for a fact you, Paul, in particular, have said many times about the need for a director of football. I mean, it seems to be that if you make that right appointment, it kind of like a real seismic impact on the football club.
It seems to be the way, doesn't it, for most of the bigger clubs, and it's the technical continental way too. That even selects the manager or the head coach or whatever they're called today. It's never been something that we've had, is it? And I've said before, I've said in the past, I actually like Ocean Roberts in that I think he would make a good director of football. He's a knowledgeable guy. He's got his badges. He was assistant at Palace. He's gone over to Como now, isn't he? He's caretaker manager. He was a Wales. He was in the Wales setup. I think somebody like that. There are many directors of football out there because they move around. They seem to be moving around a lot now, don't they? And they're quite high profile. The one who's just gone to Newcastle, and these clubs are paying big money because it's a key position, because you're trusted with multi-million pounds worth of budget. So, look, I think there are a lot of things within the club that needs overhaul the infrastructure. A director of football, to me, is just one of the components within the club that needs looking at, but it wouldn't be the only one. And recruitment's huge. It's a huge factor in any club, but I think there are a number of other areas in the club that need looking at also, and I'm not going to go into any detail.
So there's a comment on there for Steve, but I'll take it away so we can't see it. We'd have to see it later. But so Vince, Vince, it's a bit of a big question, but it doesn't have to be a particularly long answer. I mean, is it your gut feeling that the club, going back to what Paul was saying there, are they starting to get their act together a bit more, do you think, in terms of their relationship with the fan base and, in general, are they becoming more kind of structurally kind of sound, I suppose, and the way the club's run? Do you get that feeling? No,
I don't. I don't. There's still there's some areas have improved and some haven't. In my opinion, they still got a lot of work to do in a lot of areas, and there's a disconnect because there's a disconnect at the highest level at the club. The people who were there day in, day out are doing a fantastic job, but there's a disconnect elsewhere.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know, Paul or Steve, do you want to quickly respond to that? I think Viz pretty well said it all, really, hasn't he? I mean, that's kind of how it is, I would say.
I think they kept prices competitive. Whether they market or promote that is could do better in that department, maybe. But I think prices wise, season tickets and so on, I think that has been one good thing. But there are, Vince is right. There are a number of, again, I just said it earlier, there are a number of things within the club that could be looked at, overhauled, improved infrastructure. And again, that's another one of them that, link with the fans, trusts, whatever it is. It's just another one that you could write a list.
Okay. I just briefly, Vince, I don't know what I thought I'd mention it to you tonight. Did you want to maybe mention again, and appreciating at the time you were quite angry, but about the idea of the bubble trip thing you were talking about? In a nutshell, you want them gone, didn't you?
Yeah, I do, and I'll be campaigning for that now. I'm going to have a month or two off, wait for the fixtures to come out, and then see when we're playing Swansea away, and then I'll be if I don't get an answer what I want from the powers to be, I'll be obviously talking to the supporters club, and I'm on the FAB as well of what my intentions are to do with that, and I will campaign whatever it takes, and that might include, which I will do, a protest down protest. I'd like to do the protest in Swansea because I think it'll have more impact, and they won't be able to stop that because it'll be a peaceful one, and that's when you apply for it. So, but yeah, I've had some positive feedback from one or two people about it anyway. The people who are involved in the decision making. So just watch this space. But whatever happens, it was the final straw this season for that. So that's definitely, I will be campaigning to get rid of that. If not with the supporters club, but on my own personally with the fans who were interested. I think everybody has come to the conclusion it's well past its sell by date now.
Okay, so I'm glad I asked you about that. There's a final YOY of the season from Ian Stewart. I love his YOYs. Steve, I missed the start of the show, but YOY is Jeff with you and not back home in Ireland with Bev. Bev's in the house.
She's with me, yeah.
But he's still torn on whether to stick or twist with Bullet. We need stability for the future rather than the circus we've had. Bullet's tactics are pants. Thank you, Ian, for that. The final thing, normally we've got a game to look forward to, and of course we haven't. So we'll just spin around. We'll try and go around all four of you. I'll go to Jeff first, and then with the same question for all of you. Looking towards next season, we don't know. We don't know the manager's going to be really. We don't know which players are going to be there. We finished mid-table this season. What do you think would be an acceptable sort of realistic ambition for Cardiff City looking to next season, Jeff?
If he plays 4-2-3-1, just below mid-table, 15th, 16th. Yeah. If he plays my system, we'll get close to the playoffs. With Atete scoring about 18 to 19 goals.
Fair enough. Vince, what were you?
If we need an improvement, he'll need to improve the squad, the depth of it. If we want to improve the league position in a lot of positions, midfield, we need some younger legs if possible on there. Maybe Isaac Davis and Eli King. Eli King was fantastic this year. I watched him against Rangers a couple of weeks ago. He was brilliant. And just develop some of the youngsters and just be a bit more positive. And I'm sure we'll go up a couple of places. I'm not sure we're good enough and have the finances to get to playoffs next year, but we could certainly dabble pretty close to them with one or two acquisitions.
Okay, Wiggy.
Same as Vince, really, Steve. I think we've got some good young blood that we could bring back into the squad. I'd have Bacon back in there, Isaac Davis back in there. I'd love to see the two Cowell brothers starting in the first team. Let's just get a bit of energy into our play. Let's just get a bit of pace into the game. If Mr. Bullet stays, I give him till Christmas, and I think he'll be gone.
Okay, Paul.
Yeah, 2 or 3 areas definitely need strengthening. But yeah, it's good. The players coming back, and they're Welsh. They're Welsh youngsters, which I want to see more of. Just homegrown players developed. Okay, don't necessarily have to be Welsh, but it's just a nicer extra edge if they're Welsh. I'd like Colwell to have a longer run in the side and be injury free. Yeah, players like Colwell, O'Dowda. Ramsey bit part maybe. I think 2, 3, 4 decent signings, whether they're loans. I think we could probably finish about where we are this season again. And I don't think, maybe with a striker a little bit higher, but I just think that's about as good as we can expect on budget and squad. And I'm not sure about expectations, but for me, I think mid-table is about right.
Okay, well, thank you all for being on the panel, and thanks for supporting the show this season. And thanks to all the City fans for taking part in the debate. We've had a bit of fun along the way, even when we've had bad results, which is great. Let's hope next season works out well for us and we can kick on. And yeah, thanks for everything. We'll see you again next season. Cheers all. Thank you. Bye bye.
Good to see you, Jeff. All the best.
See you.